Next game we're talking about, another 3:30 game, is number 9 Oklahoma at number 22 Oklahoma State, which is at 3:30 on ABC. The big storyline, Dalton, is honestly kind of a sad one. This is the final Bedlam game for the foreseeable future. And I did some research. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have played every season since 1910. 1910. It's been 113 straight years that Oklahoma and Oklahoma State have played every single year. That's the second or tied for the second longest uninterrupted rivalry in FBS history, only behind Wisconsin, Minnesota, which has played every year since 1907, and NC State, Wake Forest is also tied with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State at 1910. So 113 straight years, but this is the last one. Because after this, Oklahoma leaves the Big 12 for the SEC after the season. The non-conference schedules are already pretty much locked up until like the 2030s. So they're not going to be playing each other for a while after this. So this rivalry is going to go out with a bang with this game, because I think it will be a very, very exciting game. But it is a little sad, though, that this is the last Bedlam game that we're getting in one of the most storied rivalries in college football history.
Yeah, especially in the last 15, 20 years or so, we've gotten some circus games out of these two teams. And honestly, I think we're going to get another one. You've got Oklahoma now trying to save their season every week. You've got Oklahoma State, who is raging hot. Ollie Gordon's going crazy, got almost 1,000 yards in the last 5 weeks. There's a lot of weird. There's a lot of weird in this game, because you've got one team who suddenly looks shaky and one team who suddenly, just basically out of nowhere, shot themselves up to number 22 in the country. I think it's gonna be Bedlam for maybe one last time for a while, but this might be the hardest game of the week to pick, to be honest with you, because I don't know. Oklahoma and Texas have this similar feel to me, where I'm like, there's cracks. There's cracks, and we saw it against Kansas, but this is a weird one. We'll get into it, but I think it's going to be as wild as any Bedlam game we've seen recently.
I hope it is, man, because like I said, it's sad that this rivalry is ending. Mike Gundy is very not happy that this rivalry is ending with Oklahoma leaving for the SEC, but hopefully it goes out with a bang, man. And Oklahoma, like you mentioned, if they lose again, they're out. They can't lose again. And Oklahoma State's a dangerous, dangerous team right now. So this is going to be a really, really fun game. What is the matchup that you're really excited to watch in this game, though?
I think more than a matchup, well, kind of a matchup. I'll get into it, but I just think the spotlight's on Dillon Gabriel, man. Yeah. I kept hearing about all of this Heisman talk and these numbers and that, and Oklahoma's back and all this stuff. And then he comes out last week, 14 for 19 with a $171 and a pick six. And a 51 passing grade. And if I take out screens, all right, and this is something I'm going to get into, 7 of 12 without screens for 137 and the pick six. There's just, and they run Oklahoma. Look, this is life. They run the 5th most screens in the country.
Yeah.
All right. And in Big 12 play, you've got 5 games now against real competition, not Tulsa or whatever they were playing before. 5 games. Take out the screens, okay. He's got a 74 passing grade. He's completing 59% of his passes. He's got 5 big-time throws and 6 turnover-worthy plays. Oklahoma, to me, and I know everyone's got, well, Dillon Gabriel and the numbers and this, he just doesn't make like that many impressive big-time. I think he's good, but I don't. When we talk about those other Heisman-level guys, right? When we talk about Penix and Caleb and Bo Nix and these other guys, I don't think Dillon Gabriel's just in that group.
No.
And I know everyone was trying to put him in that group because they were undefeated, but does Oklahoma, be honest, do they have a single superstar on their offense?
No. I don't think they do.
They line up and they run their system and they run it really fast and they hope to just burn teams out. And they're going to execute their stuff. But it feels like any sort of adversity outside of, okay, they had to put together a last-minute drive against Texas, which was great. Now I won't take that drive away from him. But he just doesn't elevate. Like, he doesn't make huge throws. He doesn't elevate anything beyond the system. And I just wonder now how long you can keep doing this. They don't change anything schematically. There's not really any adjustments or layers to their offense. They come out and run the same stuff every week. So the big thing last week, the pick six that put him down 7-0, I think he was rattled. And I think the coaching staff was rattled, knowing they're behind and only letting him throw 19 times the whole game when he's supposed to be your superstar guy. And now you got an Oklahoma State team who's figured themselves out in coverage over the last 4 weeks. They have the 8th best coverage grade in the country. I talk about non-screens, right? They're only allowing right now under 53% of non-screens to be completed. Oof. This is going to be an issue. If they have to make real throws right now into this Oklahoma State secondary, who's got 7 picks in the last 4 weeks, they're going to have a problem. Because they just, I think even a bit like Kansas State, it might sound funny with Dillon Gabriel, but Oklahoma doesn't want to just drop back and throw the football. It's not their game. And if they get into that sort of game against, again, a raging hot team who right now is throwing the counter punches to what Oklahoma wants to do, I'd be very, very worried if Oklahoma fell behind or if they got in a similar game as they did last week.
Yeah. I misspoke. I think there is one superstar in Oklahoma's offense, and that is Jeff Lebby, the offensive coordinator. I think he's done a really good job. I think he's done a good job of elevating what he's had, because you look at the offensive grading for Oklahoma, they're 19th in the Power 5 in offensive grading, which is solid. But they're 7th in the Power 5 in EPA per play, which means that really the players aren't doing much to elevate this offense. It's him scheming it up beautifully and putting them in positions to win. So I think Jeff Lebby, we mentioned the Broyles Award before, he might be a finalist, honestly. I think he's done a great job with this offense, especially when Brent Venables is obviously handling the defensive side of the ball. But I agree with you, man. We didn't have Dillon Gabriel in our top 5 Heisman candidates. I cannot tell you how many Oklahoma fans were in my mentions pissed at me that we didn't have Dillon Gabriel in there. So it almost was a little. I don't ever root against teams or players, obviously, but it was a little vindication when Kansas beat him. I was like, okay, we can stop. We can stop with the Dillon Gabriel Heisman for now. But the matchup for me, Dalton, on the other side of the ball, there's one player for Oklahoma State, and there's one player in college football who is the hottest player in college football right now. The hottest player. That is Ollie Gordon. Like you mentioned, 1,087 rushing yards. That leads the nation. In the first 3 games of the season, this guy had 19 total carries. 19. They were not using him at all. Now, all of a sudden, he leads the nation because of what he's done in the last 5 weeks. Mentioned it, 978 yards, 553 in the last 2 games. It is unbelievable what this guy has done. He should be the favorite for the Doak Walker Award right now, man. And one stat that I love looking at is after contact, obviously. In the last 2 weeks, the leading Power 5 running backs over the last 2 weeks, Ollie Gordon, obviously number 1, 553 yards. Number 2 is Ollie Gordon after contact with 315 yards. And then number 3 is Kyle Robichaux from Boston College with 277 yards. So Ollie Gordon leads the Power 5 over the last 2 weeks in rushing yards, and then his yards after contact are more than any other running back's rushing yards over the last 2 weeks. So he's been incredible. However, Oklahoma's run defense is elite, man. 90.1 run defense grade, 8th in the Power 5. Oklahoma also leads the country with 76 tackles for loss or no gain this season. So they've done a really, really good job in run defense. I know Danny Stutzman, their star linebacker, got hurt in that Kansas game. Hopefully he's able to go in this one. But the big question on the other side of the ball, besides the Dillon Gabriel when Oklahoma's on offense, when Oklahoma State's on offense, Oklahoma really just has to focus in on Ollie Gordon, because otherwise Oklahoma State's passing game has kind of been well below average the entirety of this season.
Yeah, and I think it's actually the stress test now for Oklahoma's run D. I think there's a lot of numbers for Oklahoma on both sides that are tilted from an easy first 3 games, right? They didn't really play anyone out of conference. You look at, they've given up, though, 155 rushing yards in 5 straight games, and that's 225 last week against Kansas. I think they're a good run defense. I think the grading might be a little tilted. If you look at them just in Big 12 play, they're closer to solid than elite. I think there's a chance here for Gordon, and I'm going to be real with you. If you give him chances, you give him a lane, good luck. I'll be honest with you. He 28 explosive runs in the last 5 weeks. That's you're ripping off almost 6 explosives a week. That's dangerous. And you're talking, I think it was a 70-ish yarder last week against Cincinnati. This guy.
That's 10. That's for the audience at home. Is 10+ yard runs, right? Explosive runs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 28 of them in the last 5 weeks, which obviously is the most in the country. Everything he's doing is the most in the country right now. Everything. But no, if he if he gets a few lanes and he picks up some first downs early, they want to avoid most of their passing except for deep play action shots, right? Generally down the sideline. Much better. Oklahoma State looks more comfortable throwing outside the numbers. If they get one-on-ones, they're gonna take a shot to kind of make you respect it. But the basis is obviously the run game, and I think even in the Kansas game last week, look, Kansas ran for 225 yards. Jason Bean got off running. Devin Neal. I think Oklahoma. I do think there's some cracks in there.
Yeah,
I do. I think their defense, and we've talked about this with Venables, where all of a sudden you even saw it against UCF. UCF ran for a ton of yards on them, 190 something. That sounds right. It's in there. I think you have to stay patient. I think the scary part to me is Oklahoma still lost the game when I believe they forced 2 turnovers, and Bean I think had 4 turnover worthy plays.
Yeah, it was ugly.
It was ugly, and they came out on the losing side. If this game gets ugly too, they're gonna have some issues.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So mentioned Ollie Gordon is obviously he's the hottest player in college football right now, man. He is absolutely on fire. That's going to be the big matchup for Oklahoma, is to stop that guy, because otherwise it's going to be a long day. And if you stop him, we mentioned before, Alan Bowman has really been meh this season. So Ollie Gordon really does carry that offense. And it's going to be interesting, man. He's a bigger running back, too. He's got a wicked dead leg, man. A wicked dead leg. I'm saying wicked now like you are. I hate this. But he's got a really good dead leg that, I've seen guys fall, break their ankles, honestly. For a bigger running back, you don't really see that too much. You usually see them run him over. Ollie Gordon, 6'1", 211, and he's juking guys out, man. I love watching this guy's tape, and I'm so excited that we get to talk about this guy for another year after this year, too. He's only a true sophomore, which is insane. Ultimately, Dalton, who wins the final Bedlam game for the foreseeable future?
Well, there's just something about Oklahoma State backs and shaking guys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This game is weird because
it always is.
Oh boy, Bedlam, isn't it? It's Dylan Gabriel is supposed to be the difference maker. He's supposed to be the difference between these two teams. I don't see, honestly, a ton of difference between the two of them outside of that quarterback. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's just not. Maybe he's a good quarterback, but he's not a difference maker. They need to establish his confidence early. The worst thing that happened to him was throwing that pick 6 on the first drive last week. I think it rattled his confidence. It rattled the coach's confidence. Jeff Lebby, you mentioned. I know it was raining and it was kind of sloppy and ugly, but it's very hard to believe that you've got almost any college quarterback, especially in an offense like that, only throw 19 passes in a game. It was raining. It wasn't that ugly out there. It wasn't Jets Giants. All right. It's one of these things where I go, okay, man. Now, especially on the road, you know how it can be over there in Oklahoma State.
Oh, dude, it's weird. Yeah, Stillwater gets weird.
It gets weird. It gets loud. It looks like on TV that the ground is shaking. To be honest with you, I'm gonna turn the Big 12 completely upside down this week.
Wow.
I'm gonna take the Cowboys. I think Ollie Gordon. I think he goes for another 150. And I think a big thing. I think this Oklahoma State secondary can keep them in the game. They're running hot lately. They've got 7 picks in the last 4 games. I think if you can find yourself 2 turnovers, I think you can absolutely pull this upset off. Because I don't think the rest of these two teams, especially if Stutzman is out and Ollie Gordon's running against them without Stutzman, I think you have a major problem, big time. He can take any run 70 yards. He can shake your eyes out, and when he gets a crease, he is gone. And I mean gone. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wacky. I'm going to take Oklahoma State 38-35.
Wow. I love it, man. So you are basically saying Big 12 is out of the college football playoff now because of Texas.
I'm calling it.
I love it.
I'm calling it. Every week, a couple of teams are going to get eliminated, and I'm calling out the Big 12 right now.
Big 12 is done, according to Dalton. I'm actually going to say Big 12 stays alive with those two teams. I got Oklahoma in this one, 33-27. I do think Oklahoma's run defense, good point by you, there has been cracks. But I still think they'll slow down Gordon just enough, and I just don't think Alan Bowman can win this game, man. If they slow down Gordon enough where he's below 100, which is something that's insane to say, like, oh, if you get him to 90 yards, like, because he's been above 100 in every single game besides the first 3 games of the year when he didn't get any carries. But I do think if they do that, I don't know if Alan Bowman could do enough in this game. And I do think Dillon Gabriel could do just enough to get by. So I think Oklahoma 33-27. I think Oklahoma wins this game and stays alive in the college football playoff hunt.